Open Procreate, so I have it down here. And so now you can see all the canvases you have. And we're gonna start with a new canvas. So you just push this plus sign here and the second plus sign to make a custom canvas size. And we're just gonna do inches, and we're gonna make it 5 inches by 5 inches. And we're gonna leave the DPI at 300. I would say that's the minimum quality for print. I wouldn't make it any lower than that. And we're just gonna hit create. We're just gonna draw the sketch, and you can really use any brush you want, but I like to use the 6B pencil, which is located under sketching and down here. And so after selecting that brush, we can go and pick the color. So if you go here, you can see that there are different views. I like to see the classic view. So for sketch, you can make it any color. I like to use like blue or red. But yeah, feel free to use anything you'd like. And so we're gonna click, now that you have the color, you're gonna click back on this brush and yep, that's selected. Oh, another tip is to zoom in and out, you just pinch and close, sort of like when you view a picture on your iPhone. And you can also rotate by holding down the 2 fingers and rotating. And if you are out here, you can always pinch and it will bring it back to the default view. Right here on this side, you have the sliders for brush size. So you can do this. You can also do the small brush. And we also have an opacity slider. So you can lower the opacity and make it very light. But I'm gonna bring the opacity back to 100 and probably just use whatever brush size I think is a good size. And we're just gonna clear the canvas by clicking here and hit clear. And so now you have a blank canvas again. Also, if you mark it up by accident, you can hit undo on this bottom corner here and then also redo. But a really cool shortcut is if you use 2 fingers and you tap, it will actually undo for you. And if you use 3 fingers, you can redo. Oh, we're just gonna start doing the sketch. Today we're gonna draw a lemon. So I'm gonna start with a oval and say my oval is like this, but I want it to be a little more even. So what I can do is I hold down the pen and it will actually create a smart shape for me. So you can make it bigger or smaller. And then if you let go, you can actually edit here, and it's an ellipse. So you can just kind of make it whatever shape we'd like. I'm thinking like that's pretty good. And just to get out of it, you just click whatever other icon. And we're gonna draw 2 C's for the sides of the lemon. So this part doesn't have to be perfect. You can kind of just draw what looks good. And if you want to draw little guidelines, you can do that. Maybe you want the face higher, lower. Yeah, oops. And so now I'm just going to draw the eyes. Okay, I don't. Maybe there. Okay. And you can draw a mouth, or you can make it, you know, any expression you'd like. So now we have the sketch, and if you want to change the size, the shape, or move it, we can actually use the select tool. So if you click up here on this S icon, you'll see that the selection tools come up, and I like to use freehand, where you just use the pen to pick whatever object you want to select. And it also says add right here, meaning I can continue adding other parts of the drawing as well, and it'll be one selection. And I'm just gonna click on this arrow, which will allow me to move it. So you can move the drawing around. You can make it, if it's on uniform, you can make it bigger or smaller. If you do freeform, you can make it bigger or smaller, but in one direction. And I have snapping on, which that will allow you to just move the object around, but on the planes, sort of like having a guideline. So if I want it exactly in the middle, for example, it would be like the yellow line. Yeah. And then you can also just, whenever you like the size and location, you can just hit the pointer again, going to the line art. So you can actually name your layers if you want to differentiate between each, but you don't have to. I'll just show you how to rename it if you'd like. You just click here on the layer and select rename, and you can either like scribble like this to erase it. Oh, that's not working. Okay, and then you can write, oops, sketch. And another option is you can bring up the keyboard down here and type sketch as well. And when you're done, you just select outside, and now you have the sketch layer. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna decrease the opacity, so normal opacity, 100%. So we're just gonna decrease it until you think you could still see it. And we have that now. I lowered it so it's still visible, and I'm just gonna click here, this plus button, and you'll be able to add a new layer. And for my line art, I'm just gonna go with black. So I'm just gonna bring this circle all the way down, and now I have black. So cool thing with the Apple Pencil is it actually is pressure sensitive. So let me zoom in so you can see. If I lightly hold the pencil, lightly hold the pencil, it will do that. And if I push down, you could see that more pressure is applied. Another thing is you can put your pencil to the side, and depending on the brush, you can also shade. So that's just a fun little feature to have. It makes it a little more realistic. So when I draw circles, for some reason I like to rotate it because I'm just able to draw a lot more stable this way. And do my little sketch here, and then move on to the other side and drop there. And so now I have the outline, and just gonna trace the other parts. Alrighty, and so now you have the line art. You can go back to your layers and just turn off the sketch. And now you have just the line art visible. And I'm gonna close that up. The line ready to be colored. And what I like to do is I like to use reference layers, and I'll explain what that means, but in order to turn it on, you can just click here and hit reference. And what this will do is it will use your line art sort of like a border. Anything within the boundaries of your reference will only be colored. So let's just make a color layer now. We're gonna go here, and I'll just rename this one because there's a couple of layers now. And now you have your color layer. You actually want to put it underneath the line art because then the colors will not cover the line. It's like a lighter kind of yellow on this, so let's see, you can test it out. Ooh, that looks nice. I'm going to drag this and hold it, and you can see this color drop shows up, and you can put it on the lemon. And you can change the threshold, meaning it gets closer or further away from the line. So if you go to 100, you could see that it kind of bleeds out. So I'm just gonna leave it there and click out of color drop. Another cool tip is if you do color drop, so say I was coloring that and you have multiple areas you wanna color the same, you just hold this and then you hit continue filling, and say you have multiple lemons, you can just keep clicking each spot to fill in the other items, but I'm gonna undo that. Just turn off the reference layer because we don't need that anymore. And I can try to show you what it does exactly. So if you click here and you turn off the color, you can actually, turn off the line art, you can actually see that it draws around your line reference. So let's turn that back on, and we're gonna go over to add some texture on this lemon. And so now we're going to add a new layer, and it's gonna go on top of the color but under the line art. So select here and hit rename, and you can name it texture. There's different ways people add texture, but what I like to do is try to make it look like a color pencil. So since I have this brush, I can kind of scribble like this to kind of make it look like I'm coloring with a color pencil on top of watercolor, if that makes any sense. And what I like to do is I like to pick different colors so that you can see the yellow on top of the base. So let's start with a slightly darker yellow. So maybe, yeah, that looks good. So you can see what I like to do is do like oval scribbles because I feel like it kind of helps make it look more fluid rather than like the sharp lines that it ends on. So yeah, feel free to just grab your brush and color these little scribbles on top of the lemon. And then we're gonna add a second color of scribbles, just so it has a little more dimension. So I am going to add another layer, and I'm gonna color pick the original color. So to do that, you just take your finger and hold it down until you have the color you'd like. So I'm gonna select there, and I'm gonna pick a lighter color to add texture to. Oh, sorry, actually, we're gonna delete that. So I'm gonna pick the lighter color to start with. Maybe a little lighter. Okay. Cool. So what I actually wanted to do was we're gonna reuse the same layer so we don't have to draw these scribbles again. And so I am going to duplicate that layer, and then I'm gonna turn on alpha lock. So to do that, you can click here and lock it, which means only the items that are drawn on that layer can be changed. Everything else, like the background, will not. But you can see if I color on top of this, it changes the color. And we're just gonna hit fill. So it's just gonna fill the selected area. And then we're going to take that layer and move it slightly over so that you can see both colors. We're gonna combine these two layers either by pinching like that, or you can hit merge down. So now these layers are just one. And you can see that it's like coming outside of the lemon. So what we can do is we're going to do a different type of mask, and it's called a clipping mask. So if you click here and hit clipping mask, it will actually restrict the lines only to the shape of the previous layer. And so now it looks very bold. So we're actually going to change the layer type. If you scroll here, you click N and you scroll up and down, you could see that these different layer types will make the color on top respond differently to the bottom color. But what I'm going to use is multiply, which basically multiplies the color on top and below to make a darker color. And I like that because it sort of incorporates both colors, so it's a little more comprehensive. Is that the right word? Okay. So then we're going to click here, and we're going to decrease the opacity because right now it's very bold, and so I just want to have it show a little bit, but not to the point where it's very obvious. And so you can make it as light or as dark as you'd like. And now if you click out, and you can see that you have a little more texture on your lemon. And so now we are going to add some blush, and let me just add it here. So we're gonna have this be the blush layer, and so you can go in and pick whatever kind of blush color you'd like. Kind of like this color. So I'm gonna go in and just scribble on where I want the blush to lay, and we're gonna smooth this out so it doesn't have to be perfect. And once you have that, I actually like to go in here and, into here, into adjustments, and select Gaussian Blur, which will allow us to blur out the cheeks. So you can actually hold this pencil down, and you're gonna slide it across. So if you go all the way, it's gonna disappear because it's been blurred completely. But I like to do it so that the rough lines disappear, but I could still tell it's blushing. And I like it pretty soft, so I'll go there and just exit out. So now you have blushing lemon. If it's too intense, you can always lower the opacity here, and if you want it even more intense but still smooth, you can actually duplicate it so it has another layer on top, and you can decrease the top one. And kind of see how that looks, and if you like it, you can merge down. I'm gonna make this lemon really red because it's very sour. And another thing that I know I've seen in a lot of picture books is people like to make the line art more subtle, and so we can do that by changing this black color to a lighter color. And to do that, we can turn back on alpha lock, so you can either click here and do alpha lock, or you can just swipe with 2 fingers. You can see it has turned on with the checkers. And I'm gonna go back and select the original lemon color, so I have it as a base, and I'm gonna make a much darker yellow, and kind of, see, yeah, that looks pretty good. So I'm gonna fill the layer again right here. So now the lemon has been filled with that color, but I want the eyes and mouth to be noticeable, so I might change it to maybe even pinkish color. Okay, maybe here. And we can actually just draw on top of it. So I'm gonna do that. And then we can undo alpha lock by swiping it again. Now I'm just gonna show you some cool things you can do with the completed art in case you wanna modify it a bit. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna group this whole thing so that everything's on one layer, or one group, and you can actually see now it's all combined. We're gonna duplicate it, so you wanna swipe left and hit duplicate. And then we're gonna flatten the layer, meaning it's gonna be compressed into one. So just hit the group and hit flatten, and turn off the layer underneath. There. So now you can see we just have this one layer, and we can go in and change everything about it. So I'm gonna go into adjustments. I'm gonna go into adjustments, and you see that there's different sliders you can play around with. So say I want the lemon to be brighter or darker. It's here. You can make it a lot more saturated or desaturated. And I find this tool really useful. If you want to check the values of your drawing, you could just add everything to one layer and flatten it and see, like, maybe I want the value of the line to be darker. But yeah, I'm going to make it a little more saturated so it pops out. And you can actually change this little slider here for the hue. If you just do a couple percentage, it makes a big difference. But if you want to change like the whole color, you can just keep on sliding it here. But I'm gonna keep it, I would say, like, if you want it to be warmer, you go left, cooler to the right maybe, so I might leave it there. And if I want it to be a little brighter, I can, but I think I'm just gonna leave it like that. And if you click out of it, you can see that the lemon is now modified, and you can actually hit undo or redo, just tapping back to see what has changed. And I'm pretty happy with that one, so I'm gonna leave it as is. Now we have our drawing and we want to share it or save it. We're gonna go to this wrench tool and we're gonna go to share. And we're going to pick whatever format you'd like. Look at your process. So if you go to videos and hit time-lapse replay, it will show you everything that you've done for this whole canvas. So you can see it's running through it pretty quickly, but if you ever want to stop at a certain part, you can slide it around and see that. And that's pretty much it. I wanted to make this really simple just because we didn't have that much time, but hopefully you're still able to learn a couple of tips and maybe find ways to incorporate it into your style. We are going to just play with this cool drawing assist tool. So let me just turn off this lemon and let's go in and add a new layer. And we're gonna go to this wrench tool, canvas, and then drawing guide, we're gonna turn that on. You can see there's like a grid now. We're gonna go edit drawing guide, and you can see that you can actually change the color of the guide. So if you want it to be more subtle, let me see if you can see that. You can also increase the opacity or decrease it. And if you hit done, you can actually see that this is really helpful, especially if you wanna draw something straight or even, like hand lettering or even like a box or something. But the thing I really like is if you click here and go to drawing assist, you can actually have the pencil be restricted or be on the same plane as the drawing guide. And so a really cool feature is in perspective, you can actually do like 1, 2, 3 point perspective. So if you click here, say you want, lines towards this object, that's 1 point, but the really cool thing is 2 point perspective. So you can actually do 2 points, and you could see that the, this is the horizontal line, and these are now 2 point perspectives. So it's really helpful, I find, that maybe you're drawing a street or some buildings, you can easily just map it out using these grids. So say there's like a road going that way, you have the sidewalk. And that's a really fun feature because it's basically like using a ruler that's already made for you. Yeah, so that's a really helpful tool that I use for like drawing rooms or buildings outside, things like that.